Hello everyone, welcome back to Real Mongolia. Today I'm with Breanna'S. So could you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure. So my name is Breanna'S Wilson. I am an American journalist and travel writer, and I live here in Ulaanbaatar. And I have a Mongolia travel blog called Meanwhile in Mongolia, and I also run tours.
Do you know where the wild things go? They go along to take your honey. Break down how we build your breakfast. Now let's eat, my love, my love.
I'm getting older, baby, and I've been thinking about you lately. Does it ever drive you crazy? Just how fast the night changes.
Meanwhile in Mongolia, that's a good name.
Thanks.
Why did you choose that name?
I don't know. It was over the pandemic. I started the website and it just sounded catchy, and I feel like I always say, well, meanwhile in Mongolia, it's snowing in June. So
Yeah,
it just made sense.
it's a good name, yeah.
Thanks.
So tell us about why you come to Mongolia, the first time you came to Mongolia, your story coming to Mongolia.
Yeah, so I started coming about 6 years ago, and I first came as a tourist. I came to see the landscape. I went up north to the Satin tribe, and that's the tribe that rides reindeer. And I just sort of fell in love with the country and the wildness and sort of remote feeling that, this place leaves you with. So I decided to come back the next summer, and then the next summer, and then it became longer and longer periods that I started coming. So now it's been about 6 years, and I spend about 8 months a year here writing and trying to run tours and give people that same experience I had.
Could you tell us about your tour company and what kind of tour you organize?
Yeah.
I saw that you organize a women's retreat, which sounds really interesting and unique. It's for women only, right?
Yeah, so I do a lot of female-based tours. So usually it's American women between 25 and 45 who have maybe always wanted to come on an adventure, and they didn't have a friend or a partner who wanted to do the same thing, or maybe Mongolia has always been on their bucket list. So I get a lot of women who come on my trips, and some of my trips are for women only, but I also do mixed gender trips as well. So everybody is welcome. It's just a matter of, I wanted to give women a safe space to sort of come and adventure, and maybe if they're not used to camping or living this sort of off-grid lifestyle, it gives them a way to ease into it, and I try to make it as easy and comfortable as possible.
My viewers also ask me the question, is women safe for solo women travelers?
This is also the question that I get, and I will say I do travel around by myself. I drive my own car, I camp alone, I visit families alone. It's not to say it's unlike any other country that has its problems and anything like that, but I have personally never had any weird experiences or anything that has left me feeling shaken or unsafe. So I can only talk about my personal experience and things that I've done and seen, but I think it's a very safe country. But always be smart, be aware of your surroundings, common sense.
Yeah, so generally safe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you traveled all around Mongolia.
Yeah.
Yeah. So which province was your favorite, and which place was your favorite,
Oh, it's so hard to choose just one. I mean, every province is so different, and there's so many things to do, and I feel like every time I'm in the countryside, I find something else I want to do or have to do, so it's really hard to narrow it down. But I mean, anytime I get to stay with the family and experience just the nomadic living and that sort of lifestyle, that's the best.
There are some touristy places, the Gobi area or Koska Lake, but you've been to places that other tourists didn't visit, So I was talking about that kind of places. Yeah.
I try to go as deep into areas and as far away from the tourist resorts and the big natural wonders that everybody goes to, which are amazing and people should go to them. They're popular for a reason, but I try to, when I have the time, go a bit deeper and a bit further, and hopefully I can do more of that this summer too.
Mongolia is a big country and
Massive.
yeah.
And not a lot of roads, not a lot of infrastructure, so it's not always easy, but
Yeah, you have a car and you drive your car,
I do.
so you know about the Mongolian road, right? The
Yeah.
condition of the countryside road.
yeah.
Did you have any adventures?
Oh, I have plenty of adventures. Well, they say that about 1/5 of the roads here are paved, and the rest are all dirt roads, so that's always an adventure. But yeah, I mean, I travel a lot by myself, so I have all the recovery gear and everything. I've had to change fuel filters on the side of the road. I've had, like my gas tank freeze. I've had everything happen, so it's good to be very handy when you're out here.
How's your Mongolian language going?
I wish it was better. I'm working on it. It's very, very, very tough. But I really want to get better at it, and I have a tutor, and I'm
You
trying.
can communicate with the nomadic herders in the countryside.
It's very basic, but yes,
Yeah.
I'm okay. I would like to get better. It is something I'm going to focus on a bit more, but
Yeah,
it's a very tough language.
yeah. Because if you're traveling in the countryside, there aren't many people who speak English. You
Yeah.
know, so
Nobody.
yeah, nobody. So
Yeah, it comes back once I'm in the countryside and I'm like forced to speak it. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I can do this. But when you want to have a really in-depth conversation, that's where I'm sort of lacking. But I'll get there.
But in Ulaanbaatar, what do you think about the English language proficiency of Ulaanbaatar residents, especially young people?
It's getting better. It's definitely becoming more common than when I first started traveling here. And you can see that the older generations speak Russian, and now the younger generations are speaking Korean or English or
English, yeah.
Japanese. But yeah, I mean, I've met plenty of very proficient English speakers here, and it's not always easy to get by, but you can.
So the question I wanted to ask the most is about our nomadic herding culture. This is the core of our identity.
Yeah.
We've always been nomadic herders, nomadic pastoral herders. And so what do you think about the nomadic herding culture of Mongolia, and what is the most unique or important thing about nomadic herding culture? Because there aren't many nomadic culture around the world right now. Almost all the civilizations are now stay in the city, sedentary lifestyle. But we are few nations who have this nomadic herding culture still.
Yeah, it's what makes you guys special, and it's so authentic still. I know that it's becoming harder for herders to maintain that lifestyle without being forced into this modern world. I mean, now I see herders on motorcycles, and everybody has a cell phone, and everybody is on Facebook, and now there's better cell phone reception out in the middle of nowhere where there used to be none. So I see, this place evolving in that way, but I still see you guys holding on to your traditions, and there's always milk tea served as soon as you walk into a ger. There's always dried curds. There's always a candy bowl. There's always those elements, and I don't think those are ever going to go away. So hopefully it stays this special for a long time.
This kind of Mongolian hospitality is so deeply connected to our nomadic herding culture, because in the countryside, nomadic herders, they don't live close to each other. So whenever you meet someone, you just have to help them, and it's on our mentality. And also Meredith, we talked about this, and we talked about how the climate change is affecting our traditional way of life, and forcing people to move to the city. Ulaanbaatar is now full of people, it's packed, but Mongolian population is only 3.5 million, so almost half the population lives here. But we have this enormous land in Mongolia. So what do you think about the future of this changing lifestyle, from countryside to city, from nomadic to sedentary,
Yeah. It definitely hasn't been easy for herders in the last year. I mean, with the very harsh winter and a lot of people losing their herds, and kind of just feeling like they have nothing, so wanting to move to the city. But I think once they get here, they realize how special that lifestyle was that they had. And I feel like a lot of them move back or will go back at some point. And I think that that will be more common, especially because, Ulaanbaatar is very congested. There's, only so many jobs, there's only so many things that people can do. So I think that they'll start to go back to that lifestyle, or at least I'm hoping that they do, because you have everything you need out there.
Yeah.
It is hard, it is, I'm obviously romanticizing it a bit. It is extremely difficult, but
you lived with nomadic herders, right? And tell us about how hard their life is, because some people don't have an idea, they just think they just look after their sheep and goats and then just live in the vast open plains, but it's constant work, 24 hours a day. You need to look after the sheep and goats and fetch water from the river, collect cow dungs, and just constant work 24 hours a day. So could you tell us about your experience with nomadic herders?
Yeah, I mean, the things that I used to take for granted, like electricity and hot water, and you realize how difficult it is even for them to get a lot of that stuff. You have to go to the river or to the well to get water that you keep in a bin inside the ger. You have to have either a solar panel or a car battery that gives you power to charge phone or a light or anything. So it's just constant, like,
even if you want to stay warm, you need to actually collect cow dungs and then burn it, and then you run out, you go out again, collect cow dung. So it's like
it's constant work. Constant. There's no relaxing, there's no sort of taking a day off, or, you can't be like, I'm hungover, I don't want to do anything, I'm going to watch Netflix all day. The sheep still need collected, the horses need watered, like, you got to get out there.
No weekends.
There's no time for that. I commend them. I think that the herders are amazing, and to live that lifestyle is not easy, but
I can understand why young generation is attracted to the city life, because it's easy life, and also there's modern technology, and they see this modern life through their phones. Everybody has a phone, and because the modern technology is so attractive to them, but still we have to hold our values, protect our traditional lifestyle, culture. I wish we could more people to see that.
I think you guys are doing a very good job of still maintaining that lifestyle and balancing, because it's not easy, because the world is getting smaller. You see people on Facebook, you see someone in the city and they're at a bar and you're like, I would rather be doing that than sitting in the middle of nowhere like I've done for the last 6 months. But I think that once they come to the city, they miss the countryside and they miss that life, so a lot of them go back.
But some people have no choice, because if you lose your livestock, basically you have nothing. It's their livelihood. So basically you have nothing, so you have no choice but to move to a city and do the minimum wage job, which is sad. So it's something to do with the climate change. For example, it's June 21st and it's snowing outside. Can you believe this?
This is Mongolia.
And I also noticed that the weather has become so unpredictable in the past few years. For example, last winter was so harsh. I think we lost around almost 10 million livestock, which means like hundreds of families have lost almost all their livelihood. So they're moving to a city. So I think it's if you see the big picture, it's climate change, it's also something to do with it. So I wish the government would do something about it.
I think they're understanding the importance of maintaining that side of the culture, and I did see a lot of aid last year as far as giving the herders food for their animals and supplementing their income and stuff. So they're paying attention, they're trying. That's I think a step in the right direction.
Okay, so you must have had so many culture shocks in Mongolia when you first time coming here. There's so many things you weren't used to, because you're coming from America. So tell us about your culture shock moments.
I think the most common, not just for me but for everybody, is probably the bathroom situation. Because you guys use the long drops. So when you're in the countryside, there's 2 planks, and that's your toilet. You're going in a hole.
And there's a pit.
And it's a community pit. And But it's nature. I mean,
Yeah.
what do you want? So I think that's usually the most common like culture shock for people, but you just get used to it.
It's uncomfortable, right?
It's just different for people.
Different, yeah.
Because, I mean, in America, we're so modest and we're like, oh my gosh, like, who can see me like squatting?
Yeah.
And then at some point you're like, who cares? Like, whatever.
That's in the province capital or town. But if you actually go to the deep countryside, there's actually no pit.
Yeah.
It's just, you just do your business outside.
yeah. I always travel with a shovel and you make it.
Oh, you do you shoveling?
I do shovel, yeah.
Wow, that's considerate.
Thanks.
Yeah. Some people just go behind the bush and do the business. Yeah, it's a unique experience.
Yeah, it's the way we did it for centuries before this. So.
Before the city, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. How about like people's mindset? You know, Mongolians have a unique set of mindset. You know, we are, I would say, free-spirited people. You know, we like our freedom. You know, we're really proud people.
Yeah.
We're proud of people. Sometimes it shows in a negative way. For example, if you're driving, you know, you don't want other guy to go in front of you, so you just honk, you know, something like that. But it's just in our nature. We are just proud people. You know, we are free-spirited. You know, we've been riding horses in the vast countryside for hundreds of years. Now we are just living in the countryside. So what do you think about the mindset of Mongolians, the traits of Mongolian personalities?
You guys are definitely very proud. I mean, you can see that when you walk into someone's ger, and there is not a speck of dirt anywhere. You know, it's beautifully decorated with hand-sewn pillows and, you know, not drapes, but the little hand-sewn, like, embroidered pieces all around the top, and the medals hanging, and so it's just so...
Family pictures.
Oh, family pictures, a shrine. I mean, these are the elements that are always in a ger, but they're always so thoughtfully put together and clean and just, like, immaculate. So you definitely see the pride in that aspect, which is nice because... If you look at my room right now, it does not look like that. I have clothes everywhere, I have crap everywhere.
Yeah, the Mongolian gear is basically a big round tent, but the whole family lives inside it, and there's everything you see is inside. You know, the family pictures, shrine, the beds, everything's just one room tent. And but people live content. You know, they are proud of it, and they have hundreds of thousands of animals. They have a fresh air. They have a beautiful countryside. So yeah, people live a beautiful life in the countryside.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, but
something they should be proud of.
Yeah. Some city folks think that maybe look down on them, but I don't think so, because that's our traditional way of life, and there's nothing wrong with living in the fresh air, you know, looking after sheep and goats.
That's wealth to me. That's like what people are striving to do right now, is to, go live in a remote, beautiful place. And these guys are doing just that. So to me, they're like the wealthiest people around.
And I was born in the Western Mongolia, Zakhan province, and I spent my childhood in the countryside. So I have a special connection with nomadic herding lifestyle. So that's why I have a fond feeling towards it.
Oh, I mean, I think more people are paying attention to Mongolia these days, and I like that most people come here without any sort of expectations. They have no idea what this place is about, and it really is best experienced just by being here and just jumping into everything and doing it with an open mind, and I hope more people do that.
Yeah, so let's talk about tourism in Mongolia. And our government has this goal of bringing 1 million tourists a year, and so you're working in the tourism industry, and from your perspective, from foreigners' perspective, what should we do to improve our tourism industry, you know, to boost our tourism industry? What should we do, and you know, what do you think about it?
It's tricky because the more you promote the tourism, the more infrastructure gets built for it, the more tourists come, the less special it feels to come here, because then you're part of a mass. But at the same time, having roads in general that, you know, aren't filled with potholes would be nice, just for even the locals to get around. and sort of basic infrastructure around the country would be nice. So yeah, I'm torn. If the masses come, it loses a lot of the specialness, but I understand the need to want to drive tourism here. It's a good way to make, a good GDP for the economy. And
what would be the biggest challenge for Mongolian tourism industry? Maybe like a promotion, maybe lack of marketing, or maybe the infrastructure,
Yeah, right now it's the lack of flights. It's hard to get a flight here, and you can only fly through so many cities to get here. It's expensive. There's, not a lot of options. So if you started creating, more flight routes and more daily options for people, that would definitely drive a lot more tourists.
I see.
Especially if you added like a budget airline that just flew to certain destinations. People were looking for deals, and it doesn't mean that they're going to be a cheap traveler. It just means that they, look for an easy destination to get to. Maybe then when they get here, they're still doing a luxury tour, or staying in mid-range hotels, or booking those sort of mid-range experiences. So I don't think that budget airline indicates budget traveler. I think that that's important for people to keep in mind.
So let's talk about Mongolian culture and customs. So, for example, if you're traveling in the countryside, there's this thing called ovo, stone heap. You need to encircle it like clockwise. What kind of Mongolian customs or things like that you find the most intriguing or interesting? Yeah, there's so many Mongolian customs, right?
So many.
Yeah.
And even I learn new ones all the time, usually by doing it the wrong way. I always try to cover my wrists if I'm, accepting something, if I have on a shirt that allows me to do that. But the customs when you enter a ger, like receiving milk tea from the host with, either the right hand or two hands. Yeah. And then the snuff bottle exchange with the male, with the male host. And that stuff's special. You don't see that anywhere else. And when I tell people about just like going into random people's homes here, when I say this to like people in the States, they're like, they just invite you in and give you this stuff. Like people can't believe it, and they can't believe how hospitable without really expecting anything in return. And I think that that's the most special part about it. Is it's a genuine gesture. It's not done for show or for any other reason.
Yeah, it's Mongolian hospitality.
Special.
It's unique. So let's talk about Mongolian cuisine, Mongolian food. Mongolian cuisine mostly consists of meat and dairy products. So
lots of meat and lots of dairy, yes.
Yeah, that's how we eat traditionally, during the Genghis Khan time. Now we have Italian restaurants, Korean restaurants, but Mongolian food, what do you think about it? What's your favorite food,
I was having this conversation with someone last night, actually a Mongolian chef. I would really like to see Mongolian cuisine get elevated and become cool, because when you're in UB, all of the cool restaurants are Mexican, Italian, Korean, and I would like to see a pride resurgence in that sort of Mongolian food, in those traditional dishes and that cuisine, because I only really eat it when I go to the countryside. I have to admit, I don't eat Mongolian food when I'm here in the city. I eat vegetarian food. I eat, everything else.
You're a vegetarian?
No, I'm not. But after being in the countryside, you come back and you're like, I just want a vegetable or a fruit or something like that. So, because as you mentioned, it's very, meat and dairy heavy. And if you are a vegetarian or vegan, it can be difficult when you go to the countryside. Not impossible. The families definitely understand more now. Like that people have different diets and they've become more accustomed to it. But I would like to see it become cool, and for someone to take it and make it sort of a cuisine that can be internationally recognized, and not just meat that's on a tray and everybody digs in with their hands.
The most famous Mongolian food would be like hoshor, boz, tsuven, What's your favorite, and do you make Mongolian food by yourself?
By myself, no. But normally on my tours, I'll do like a cooking class with one of the moms, and we'll make boots and hoshor and learn how to fold it, which is harder than it looks.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can still not do it very well. But yeah, I mean, that's all we eat when we're in the countryside. And, you know, I think it's important to do a class and to learn how to make it. But I don't make it myself in the city. I don't do much cooking in general, so it's not.
So Naadam festival is coming,
Yeah.
which is like the biggest celebration in Mongolia, and there are so many other holidays like Lunar New Year, the National Independence Day. Which holiday is the most your favorite, and also tell us about your experiences of Mongol Naadam festival.
Yeah, so for Naadam, I usually do a trip, and I have clients, and we do a horse trek, and then we are in our Hongai, so we see the local Naadam out there. We go to the horse races, we see the wrestling matches, the archery. I think it's one of the coolest things people can come see here, because it's not just, you know, seeing the competitors competing against each other. It's every local coming in from all around the countryside to watch these things also. So you really are like elbow to elbow with all the people from the city and the town and the countryside, and their family members and kids and grandmas, and everybody's dressed so nicely. And they all have on their best dolls, and you know, everybody's just happy and colorful, and there's so much food all the time everywhere, and just it's always just a nice experience and a nice, you know, cultural interaction for people. A real one.
Yeah. So have you tried like archery or ankle ball clicking or some of that?
I have. I've tried the archery, and I've actually been working on the mounted archery and trying to do
mounted archery.
Yeah, so the more traditional archery, which is not what happens at Naadam, but I'm trying to get more into that. And I haven't done the whole flicking with the ankle bow thing. That is still, I'm not sure how it works. And
you just flick it and you just hit the target.
But now they have the whole like gun thing, like slingshotty thing. It's a lot, but I'll work on it this year. But and then the wrestling is always fun to watch. Also.
Horse racing.
The horse racing, that's always exciting.
Lunar New Year. Have you been in Mongolia during Lunar New Year?
This last Lunar New Year was the first one that I spent here, and I thought that was really special. And so, next year I'll actually do a tour over Lunar New Year also, and we'll go visit families, and because again, everybody dresses up so nicely, and it's I think your like highest holiday, I would say. People are just again very happy and warm and welcoming, and it's just a huge celebration. It's nice.
So Lunar New Year is for like family holiday. Here all the distant relatives got together and greet each other and pay respect to their elders.
I started learning all the traditions, like with the hands and the placement and the deeds that you're supposed to do based on your zodiac animal and all. There were so many things. I was like, okay.
When you greet the elder, you need to place your hand below under. That's why your way of respecting the elder. And also there's so many things like making 100,000 boats.
So many boots. Oh my gosh. And then the gift giving.
Gift giving.
It was
That's
crazy.
my favorite part.
Of course.
I
got a few gifts. I was pretty proud. I gave a few. I got a few.
Did you wear a Dale?
I did, actually. And then I ended up going also down to Shambhala at that time to the energy center, which it was also a very cool experience, especially given the holiday and the snow and everybody being really dressed up, and it was nice. It was interesting.
Lunar New Year or Tsagansari is not just Mongolian holiday, it's also celebrated throughout Asia, China, and also other Asian countries, and
your traditions are a little bit different from those countries, and what I think people associate, Chinese Lunar New Year and stuff like that.
It's time for family get together, and I think the American equivalent would be Thanksgiving.
I think that's pretty accurate.
You get to meet your relatives, all the cousins and everything.
And lots of eating all day. Huge platters of meat and boots and everything, vodka, beer,
yeah.
everything.
Yeah. I think every nation has this kind of holiday where at least once a year you get together with your whole family and just catch up, you know.
It's a good holiday.
Ask, are you married or something like that?
Yeah, or when are you getting married, or why not, or what happened?
What happened? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's unique culture. Yeah, there must be something funny stories, you know, funny like adventures happened while when you're in Mongolia, you're traveling around Mongolia. So could you share us maybe one, just, you know, funny, you know, experience?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I think in the moment they're not so funny.
Okay.
And then afterwards you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe all that happened. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I mean, every day here is an experience of some sort. You know, I've taken clients to people's gers and, you know, they've not been there, or they've been like, oh, we're all sleeping in one ger, and it's like 10 people in one ger. And you're like, which is, you know, very common here, but I think for some people when they show up, they're like, oh my gosh, we're doing what? And then, you know, you all spend the night together, you're sleeping on the floor, everybody's cozy, tucked into one another. And
everybody's sleeping.
but it creates a bond. It's like part of the experience.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. It's a great experience. Yeah.
It's always those funny things you remember. And it's those uncomfortable moments that you're like, okay, I can do this. I will survive. I'll be okay. And then afterwards, you're like, I did that. That wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah. So my friend from Finland told me a funny story.
Okay,
she was traveling from Chingiz city, the capital of Kintu province, to Ulaanbaatar, and she rented a taxi, and the taxi was going like 150 kilometers per hour.
Yeah.
And she was so scared. She was like, and there was like, it's just a small car, Prius, you know, the most popular car in Mongolia, and it's supposed to fit like 4 or 5 people, but there was like at least 10 people, and she was like sitting like this, and she was so scared, she almost cried, and she told me this. And
it's one of those things where in the moment you're like, oh my gosh, but then afterwards you just laugh.
After a while, after that you just look back and laugh. It's
Prius, the unofficial car of Mongolia.
I think just 1 in 3 car in Mongolia is a Prius, right?
Something like that. I mean, I would believe it.
Yeah.
You see them in the most random places. I'll be in the middle of nowhere driving, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it was so hard for me to get back here. And then a Prius will come right beside me and zoom right past, and they're like, Firestay! And I'm like, how'd you get here?
You don't have a Prius, right?
No.
Okay.
No, I have a Land Cruiser. So big beefy car.
Yeah, but in the countryside where some cars don't go, the Priuses are there, you know. It's crazy. I don't understand.
I mean, I've pulled them out of rivers and seen them in ditches, and Mongolians, you always make it work.
Yeah. So, where were you born? Could you tell us about your background a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So I was born in Pittsburgh, in Pennsylvania, in America, and I lived in America until I was, 28, 29, and then started traveling full time, and then this sort of became home base unintentionally, and now I live here mostly, and then travel when I'm not here, just travel around and trying to experience other cultures and places. But always here. This is home.
So when I hear the Pittsburgh, I think of Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah.
And so, is it cold in there, in your city? Cold? What's the weather like?
It is cold.
Okay.
Very gloomy. So lots of rain. Very humid. So it's a lot drier here. But I mean, it's not as cold in the winter, but it snows and.
Kind of similar to Mongolia.
A more mild version.
Mild version.
Yeah. Okay. Our summers are warmer also. But.
I see. So my last question would be, you're American, so there's a difference between Mongolian mindset and American mindset. So what's the biggest difference between people's perspective, the way of thinking, mindset, between Americans and Mongolians? Because you obviously lived in both countries, you know. So I want to hear your opinion.
I think Mongolians are very present. I think you have to be. I mean, the herders have to be, because they're always thinking about the herd and what's happening right in that moment. They're not thinking.
Living in the moment.
Yeah, they're not thinking, 5 hours ahead or, about what happened 6 days ago or, anything like that. They're just very present. And I think that when most Americans come here, that's one of the things they learn to do is just be in the moment and not overthink things and not worry too much and just kind of trust the process and what's happening. And they ease into Mongolia time. Whether they want to or not, they just have to. So I think that that's one of the biggest differences is being present.
Yeah. If you live in the countryside, you have no concept of time actually, because we just say, okay, let's do it in the morning, or let's do it in the afternoon, let's do it in the evening. We don't say 1 p.m., 2 a.m., 3 p.m. So that's a really unique, I think.
Which was the hardest thing for me to get used to here, because I was so used to being like, okay, at this time we're doing this, and then at this time that, and then eventually I just realized like nobody has a watch and nobody's paying attention. It's like, we do it when we do it.
Yeah.
And as soon as you sort of just go, okay, we'll do it when we do it, and then it's those in-between moments, usually when something else happens, like a horse is born, or I don't know, something crazy will happen. And it's like, if you were so concerned about the time, you wouldn't have even noticed that was happening, or you wouldn't have been present for it. So you just learn to let go and go with the flow like they do.
In the countryside, there's nothing is specific. For example, if you given someone the direction, he or she would say, they live behind that mountain or something like that. Just a general thing.
I love when they say like, you take the highway, and I'm like, the highway? And the highway is just like a bigger dirt road. And you're like, okay.
That's the highway.
Yeah, and then you make the first right, and I'm like, and then you're looking at these little roads, like, is this the right, or is this one?
It's hard to...
You figure it out.
Yeah. It's hard to find your direction in the countryside, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have a GPS. For example, like 10, 20 years ago, we didn't have a GPS.
Yeah.
So it was crazy, and there's so many like random roads in the countryside.
Well, and you guys always move, so even after I'm like, okay, I know they lived here, when you go back it's like, did they move, or which camp are they at now? So then you got to ask all the neighbors, like, where's so and so? But usually, I mean, it's so close knit, and obviously they all know each other, so they're like, oh no, they're down there now. Like, okay.
For example, in other countries, they say, just turn right after 3 blocks, and we say, okay, turn right after 3 mountains, something like that. Which is crazy. So, last words, what would you say to people who plan to come to Mongolia and travel around Mongolia? Because it's summertime, so many people are coming here. So, as an experienced Mongolian traveler, what would you say to them?
Just come. I mean, really, come with an open mind, come ready for anything. Don't come with huge expectations, just experience the moment. Bring warm clothes, it can snow in June. And just try to live in the moment.
Expect unexpected.
Because that's always what happens.
Expect warm hospitality, beautiful nature, and that's Mongolia. That's a real Mongolia. And so thank you for coming here.
Thank you.
And I wish you good luck for your future endeavors.
Thank you.
And that was real Mongolia, and I'll see you next time.